So I don't
Now we're so very excited to have Mrs. One with us today. She is the expert, all experts on inquiry. We get started. A great day, thanks for you. And if you need an agenda, raise your hand. I will bring you one. And then in a moment, I will also send that to you digitally, because there are some items and some in there that we're having today. A couple of business items to go over. Please take care of yourself. You go through the door here under the exit sign, back of the room. Bathrooms is right down that hall. There's coffee, there's a Keurig, and there are drinks in the harvest food bag. So if you need to grab something, and there are snacks on the back table. So we don't want your tummies grumbling. We want you to be happy to be here and ready to participate. So thank you for being here with us.
Great. I am super impressed. The over under on today was like 10 of you. Was our discussion last night. My husband and I were like, surely only 15 teachers at most will show up on a Saturday, even if they register. They got to Friday night and they're like, I don't want to sit in TV all day Saturday. So this must be the best teachers. That's what scares me this morning.
I would think you are.
So, the last couple of years have been tough, right? For teachers in general, I think for social studies teachers specifically, not only have we had to deal with sort of the chaos and crazy of COVID, that was the thing, right? But then on top of it, we've just been sort of beaten up around, people injecting their ideas of what social studies should be and what we should be doing in the classroom, whether that's CRT, whether that's banning books. Everybody has an opinion on what social studies should be. And so I think many of us in education are fatigued. I was listening to a story yesterday that said that Kentucky teachers, did you guys hear this story, haven't made any income gains in the last 7 years. I know you all feel that. And so anyway, it just feels like it's been a tough go and then we just keep going. So, I like to use historical analogies. And so it often feels like we're, D-Day, storming the beaches of Normandy, where people are just yelling, keep going, while we're taking incoming fire and we're exhausted. So all of that is to say that over the last year, I've been sort of playing with different forms of professional development. Most of the time, and I've worked with some of you, I see familiar faces, on developing inquiry experiences. And obviously, I think that's valuable. That's my bread and butter. But I've been thinking a lot about, why do we teach in the first place? Why do we teach with inquiry? Where can we have some fun with inquiry? Anybody that's done inquiry in the classroom knows that it can be fun, but it's a lot of work. So today is a PD that I did with, I've done a few times. I got some new stuff today, so I'm a little nervous, but we're going to give it a shot. On just, where can you find spaces for inquiry in the classroom? 15, 20-minute spaces for inquiry where students can actually explore and I think have some fun. So that's what today is about. It's just sort of regrouping, regenerating, renewing. I wouldn't say it's exactly like a spa, but it's as close as it's going to get, maybe for us. So our agenda, for K, I was messing around with this the last 3 days, like teachers do. We have this idea of what we're going to do, and then as the day gets closer, we're like, what if we did this and this and this? And so as part of that creative process, I started playing with the shuns of social studies. So we're gonna talk about shunning social studies. That's my little joke for the day, which was probably only funny to me, but start by talking about questions and ideation. Then we're going to move to categorization, and then we're going to talk about annotation, and then we're going to end with selection. Get it? Shunning social skills. Super clever moment that I had in the meeting that I was in. I was like, oh, super smart. So anyway, I thought what we could do is I was going to set the stage a little bit, and then we were going to go through 3 demos. I was going to do one, and some of you have actually done this with me, so it's going to be an amazing repeat of what I call an image immersion experience. We'll do a little QFT around that, talk about QFT, some of you know that. Then we're going to move into what do you think this is an update? It's actually an image selection, and then we're going to do an annotation. And then I'm going to give you what teachers love to do, which is to have time to work. So I'm going to give you a choice at that point. You can either create one, this, or this based on what, and then we'll share those either before or after lunch, and then we'll end with an image exercise to round out the day. So here's my little intro. And what I mean by that is it's just 3 slides. So when we talk about getting in shape, this is my analogy for this. We can either talk about an intense TRX 8-hour workout once a month, you know, or we could talk about 30 minutes a day of alternating weight and cardio training. What do you think helps you get in shape more? Probably B, right? And so that's what today is I would say that it's probably a little bit of both. We want to stretch ourselves, but most of the time we're doing B, right? We're strength training with students. And so most of the time, here's my analogy, you know, you'll hear me talk about the inquiry design model. It sounds like Ryan knew and Carly has been in here using forms of this. Some of you I've worked with on this. And these are these week-long, intensive, in-depth experiences. I liken it to running a marathon or a 10K, or in my case, a 5K is all I can do. And even then it's kind of tough to go. So these are important. They're important, in-depth, all-in experiences. Today isn't about that though. Today is about interval training. This is what we do 30 minutes a day when we're trying to go from the Civil War to Reconstruction in a week, and we got to get some lecture in. What can we do to break up the class so that students are still engaged in inquiry in small intervals? So that's what we're going to do today. Exercises that build inquiry muscles that can nestle within a larger inquiry or just stand alone to kind of break up your day. And so here's the right side. There's my, like the joke, you know, the shunning social settings of images. So we're going to do 4 exercises today: image questions, image selection, image annotation, and image curation. And that's going to get us through the day. So we're going to start with my little intro. I just finished 4 minutes early. Now we're going to do the first exercise, second exercise, third exercise. In between, I'm going to give you a 5-minute break because that's what Saturday PD is about. And then we'll have some work time. We'll have lunch that's being brought in, and then sort of share our work, and then do another one. So that's sort of the focus of the day. Going forward, each day has a different sort of flavor. Today is getting curious and just having a little fun. Next time when we get together in January, we're going to get social, use a bunch of discussion techniques, and then we're going to get source, not sauce, on in February. So fun helping me. So anyway, that's what we're doing. And if it snows and we're not able to get together, apparently we're going all Zoom, because that's what you totally want to do on a Saturday if there's a blizzard, if you want to Zoom. So wanted to make that happen for you. Okay, so that's sort of the get up for today. Is that goodish, good adjacent for everybody? Okay. Before we get started, I wanted to know my high school teachers in here, high school teachers. Middle school teachers. All right. Who are my elementary teachers? Got two up in the front, of course, elementary, front and center. Taking notes, look at that. Like it. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is close your laptop. Put away your devices. This you're going to shake it a minute, and then it'll be fine. I promise. Phones over.
It is a big speech.
I'm really working on that to not scroll while I'm watching TV or to multitask, because I'm finding like I'm just scattered most of the time, and most of it is because we try to be too efficient and we're like all things. The worst is when you're drinking, scrolling, and watching TV. I do a lot too. Kidding. Exercise that we're going to engage in is around questioning. And so I'll just tell you. All right, boomers.
Is that an excuse?
Figure out how to stop the phone calls from my family. So
Not a
we're going to do our questions, and I guess we just start by saying that my biggest struggle as a teacher is to privilege questioning in the classroom. And it seems so obvious to everybody that questions belong in the classroom, but for me, it just is the thing that's missing the most. And so I'll give you some for instances. So one of the things I've been trying to do is rearrange my syllabus around genuine questions that students are grappling with. Y'all didn't get to experience that. Sorry, that was your lame class. Now it's super oriented around questions. And so part of me has been really thinking about, where do I create space to step away and allow students to generate questions and refine those questions. So this is an experience that I created in order to do that. So part of it is sort of realizing, where do questions come from? Thinking about, where do we get to, how can we get students to ask questions? So they're not thinking about Andrew Jackson. They're not thinking about the constitutional crises. They're not thinking about climate change when they come necessarily into our rooms. They're thinking about, who are they taking to the winter dance? How quickly can I get on my PlayStation at home? Who said what on a texting stream? So you have to like bring them into a space where maybe they would ask some questions. So questions come from a genuine sense of curiosity, right? We want students to be like, Andrew Jackson, did she say national bank? Let's talk about the nullification crisis. Totally into it. Most of the time, it's like this. What's she gonna go on, right? So how do you make your students like this? So teachers, we are masters at manufacturing curiosity. We take a kid who seems sort of bored, we put them through the Acme School, and date myself, the Acme School of Education, and then our classroom, they come out the other side and they're like, what? Andrew Jackson's school system, tell me more. Okay, so QFT, how many of you have heard of QFT, done QFT? We're kind of out there. I have mixed feelings about QFT. I don't know how you all feel about it. You guys might have been in my class where we did it as the final. I started making it the final for the fall semester. Is QFT inquiry? So that's how we're going to end. Is this inquiry around QFT? And we'll talk about what I think it can do and what I think it can't do. And then you can tell me your opinion. But we're going to do it today. So QFT comes out of Harvard. So you know it's super smart. And it comes out of this book by these two authors, Just Make One Change. And so they have this institute called the Right Question Institute, and it's all built around something that seems really obvious to a duck, but apparently we are not ducks. A lot of teachers haven't done this, including me. And so the idea of the technique is that you get students to produce questions, to improve improve questions and then to prioritize. Welcome, prioritize. So that's as simple as it is. So step one is that students are asking questions. They're producing questions. The second is that they're, oh, well, I guess we're gonna, never mind. I guess I was just gonna jump right in. All right, so the first job is to produce questions, and they've got some rules, fight club rules, right? The first rule of Question Club is that you have to ask questions. So that's gonna be your job, is you're gonna ask questions. And then you're gonna follow the rules, which is as many questions as you can. Don't stop to judge or answer your folks in your group. Write down every question as exactly as it was stated, and then change any statements into questions. So the idea is, I hope that we've generated between 20 to 25 questions per group. And then you're going to number the questions. So that's the rules. The trick of a QFT is finding the right Q focus. So the Q focus is the point that gets students to start asking questions. And you can imagine putting a political cartoon or a photograph may work, but it may not work. And so part of the trick of the QFT actually working is coming up with a Q focus that is irresistible to students so that they want to generate questions. So I'm going to show you what I think is an irresistible Q focus, something I spent a long time on. They call it a question sort of sandbox. It's an immersion experience. And so what it is it's a series of images around water. And so the way that I set this up in the class is I say, all right, we're going to take a minute, close all your devices, put them away. And all I want you to do for the next few minutes is to be curious. You don't have to write anything down. You shouldn't talk to your neighbor. I'm going to dim the lights, and I want you to just take a moment and get curious. At the end of this experience, this photo immersion experience, I'm going to have you group up in groups of 2 to 3, and you're going to generate some questions, but you don't need to think about that right now. All I want you to do, you are an overachiever, put your pen down. Yeah, and all you have to do is take it in. And see you. You can't help yourself. All you have to do is drink your fancy beverages, and all of you sit down one and take it in. And at the end of it, I'll make you work something. Does that sound like a deal? Okay, so the first part of the photo immersion experience is to set the mood. We're going to set it with some beach sound, because being here is like being at the beach.
Right.
You feel like you're at the beach? Yes. Good. I'm doing my job. Then I'm going to turn out the lights.
Oh, no.
Y'all sound like crackers. Down. You feel like little cucumbers on your eyes. Breathe in. Relaxing, super relaxing, right? Like, all right, here we go. Partner with one or two other people. And what I'd like for you to do is follow the rules. I want you to ask questions and only questions in the next 5 minutes. I want you to ask as many questions as you can. I want you to not judge your neighbor. I want you to write down every question exactly as it was stated and then number those questions. So, is that clear? All right, let's do it.
Why do I go to the
City.
Yeah, only one person was right.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
What will happen to Las Vegas in Southern California? In the water.
I don't know.
Whose responsibility is it?
Why do we have to debate what basic human rights are?
That's right. It's gotta have to be. The impact on recycled plastic. Yeah.
Why is it?
Make it efficient. Just that one. That's a whole thing to organizations. They're not. Asking where they say, hey, please.
Yeah.
Right?
You know.
I don't want to write anything. But to piggyback on that, it's on the front of his mind, probably too, that we asked to have one of the water fountains in our hall replaced with the one that was a little. If they were able to do it in the English hall. Down.
It's our, one of our clubs.
Yes.
And that's.
Yes, I'm supposed to encourage students while they're doing this, but I can't help myself. This is good.
Retro.
Good.
Not the device itself, but everything that they say. Like, really.
And Mark, you guys do better than the model. I mean, I know you're part of the building.
Right.
Aren't those things?
They are. I just put some here are real decisions. But you'll know I'm talking about that one. But I'm also talking about you.
And how was that a decision?
We'll have some way that we can something very cool and it becomes the sanctuary is like a law. That was just like it's the practice. If we think that water is human rights. Free, like, would that change anything if I had to be supplied through? Oh, okay. That's true.
Organization, any business, anything, any kind of funding. Why to. I think ultimately,
For us, we're something.
What is?
Have a plan for the summer.
Yes.
We do what needs to be charged, but truly has to be registered. Truly. And so you get come and go. Ages that come through, like now we've got a commissioner. Monitor it, you know, to make it- I think that.
It was five. Yeah. This year, I think it was right before, yeah, like 29. Yeah, I know it now. I know, it's been a long time in between there. I don't know. Sure is all over. I put it just like, sorry about that. Because that's a good- That is producing questions. My experience has been you have to prod students along a little bit, even if you have a super sexy, cute focus. I think they have to get students going. In any case, I don't think that's part of the rules, but I do it. The next step of the QFT is what they call improving the questions. I don't think this is as much improving as it is just manipulating the question. So, but we'll do it. So they talk about questions being closed or open. And so we're going to do kind of QFT purists. Sometimes I have students do compelling versus supporting questions because that's how we do, right? But we'll do closed versus open. So what they ask you to do is to go down your list of questions and to decide whether it's a closed question or whether it's an open question, and to mark it with a C or an O. Closed questions can be answered with a single yes or no. Open-ended questions require a longer explanation. And so fit in and go through your list of questions, mark them closed or open. Yes.
Ours are all O's, so we didn't even have one super close.
That's good. But you want them to ask an open-ended,
Yeah, we
not a
do.
closed-ended question, so I think that's good.
I think.
I didn't hear who was doing.
Carol, but I was.
This couple set up on my,
Yeah.
asking that.
Okay.
Answer room, and I heard his wife is being watched.
They already brought it.
I know they're in versus supporting because to me, the compelling ended the supporting you can look at the closed. We'll start after now. Yeah.
Give something to them. We're gonna go in. She's just like, they really. We all got
The closed question is more like a, no, they'll give me more like. I mean, yeah. Where the open-ended is going, like, for example, Why? Advantages and disadvantages of closed-ended. So give me an example of closed-ended question and tell me what are the advantages and disadvantages of it. Anyone? Closed-ended question. Yeah. Ah, okay. What's the advantage of that? Yeah, it begets. I'm trying to use the verb beget more in my regular speech, so it would beget other questions, right? For sure, that's an advantage. What's a disadvantage of that kind of question? They can answer it and stop, right? You can look it up and you're done. My work here is done. Good. So what's another example of a closed-ended question that you guys came up with? Go ahead. Feel like you have one.
Just a closed question.
Yeah.
Were people struggling, let's see, were people struggling to obtain water? That probably won't, but.
Yeah, it sort of brings up the point why I find compelling and supporting, because a lot of times you can have a closed-ended question like that requires sort of more explanation. It ends with a yes or it starts with a yes or a no, but you would expect there to be more explanation, right? So, but at least you get to have that conversation with students. So advantages, disadvantages. What's an example of a open-ended question that you came up with, and what's the advantage and disadvantage of that? Yeah. Are you pointing?
Oh, has her hand up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like,
You said why in Texas, oh, sorry, how did the water end up in Texas?
How did water end up on the fan in Texas?
Yeah, so you said that was open.
Yeah.
Because it sounds hard.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times open-ended questions feel enormous, right? And you can't get a handle on them. So, good. So part of it is having that discussion with students, and then they call this improving the question. So what I want you to do is take one of your closed-ended questions and make it open-ended, and then take one of your open-ended questions and make it closed. Go.
Yeah.
can we do what we have in LA for you so the water runs out? Or can't really see that. What would be the impact if it change that? Closed. Would you just do something else?
Every school.
Would every school, or
Does school recycling, does school recycling have an impact? That must be, some people. Yeah. Well, it would depend on who you are. You could still make that. Whether you believe in God. Oh.
How far forward they have these to slice bottles. Why are companies that use plastic on the shoulder? I like that one. You can consider overthinking. Overthinking that these plastic bottles.
Our companies that use plastic bottles.
Yes. There you go. You got it.
Okay. So I was talking to the elementary group, of course, and they had this amazing, so how do you do this in your class?
So I teach fourth grade, and so the way that I introduce closed and open is I call them skinny and fat questions. So they know that the skinny question, okay, is the yes or no, it's something simple, but if it's a fat question, you know, you're gonna have to do me a little writing. And so they can connect between the fat, skinny, and the fifth grade teacher uses the same terminology too, so when they get up there, they know the difference.
Skinny and fat, I liked it. So, now I'm gonna call you again. Tell me an example of a skinny question that you made fat, PHAT.
So our second question that we made a little Chevy. The question was, what are the states of water? So we made it gain a few pounds by saying, how do the states of water impact the environment?
Okay, I like it. And give me an example of the other, a fact question that you put on a diet.
So the fact question has to eat vegetables was, why is there water disparity? We changed it to, is there water disparity?
Like it. Very, very good. All right, so you would do that with students, maybe spend a little time. And then the third step, which I think is the most important, is the priority step. Where students prioritize their question. And so what I wanted you to do is I want you to review your list of questions, and I want you to choose the 3 that you think are most important. And then on the web, I've hyperlinked this document. And this document, some of you are on there, allow you to put your group's priority questions. This is hyperlinked off the entire. So like right here.
I emailed it to you.
Ideation, there. And then I'm gonna go around and give you a group number. Group number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 11, 13. All right.
I don't know. Did you send it? I didn't get it today or?
I just sent it at 9:49. Or no, I forwarded this. Oh no, I sent it at 9:16 this morning.
I don't have it.
Right.
Well, let me resend it for you too.
My last one was invoices 1 and 2.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm just sending it. It will be a blank message, but scroll down. It should be on there. I just sent it.
Yeah.
The last one was at 8:32 from Maureen Lily. Like, I saw that.
You were on that original one I sent. I don't know what you're not getting.
Okay, Kurt's in the message.
I get messages from her too.
You get her messages too. Okay, so now tell me.
Did you find it?
A message from you. Yes.
None of you, see, look, you can see here where I sent it. Your name's on there, James's name is on there, Angie's name is on there. 9:16, and I just sent it again.
Yes, I've always. I just remember
I'll go through faces, right?
You're anonymous, but
Did you get it, James?
Did you guys get?
Did you all get the email with the agenda?
Maybe just.
Did Jessica County Proxy?
You go to Spain and always get your stuff and it's always gonna too.
I believe that. Okay.
I'm gonna go to spam. I know it's not trash because I have to put in trash. Sorry. All right. Checking your phone.
I'll walk around and see if they got it.
I have my phone off, so I'll be doing it. Yeah, no, I'm not.
The email I sent earlier in the week, it says Barry's flyer on there and it has that agenda on it. Or you go to that. It says what? What was the email? I sent them from Sunday on. Okay. It has that blue flyer at the bottom and that's the. Also, the why is there. Sunday night. Okay.
December 7th, December 5th, December 3rd. I don't have a 27th.
I'd like you to consider this. What would you do with these questions?
These are the things. Yeah.
And may I say something? If you send an email to everybody with, but apparently it hasn't gone through to some people, I don't know why it's not working.
Yes.
Charles got to use the hotspot. So, but if you go onto the calendar, the agenda is on there. And so you can link to it that way. Also, the email that I sent you Sunday has the agenda on there. So you have a couple of different ways you can get that if you do it via that email I just sent for some.
Everybody, just a second, we'll finish out this demo. So students prioritize the questions, you might ask them, why did they choose the ones they chose? And where do they show up in their priority list? So I might pick on this group back here. Why did you choose the questions that you chose?
Have to go first. We could probably word this better,
Uh-huh.
but I
Which group
literally
were you?
am, huh?
Which group?
Seven.
Seven. Go ahead.
Where does all our trash go? And I know we could word that into like, how can we make that better? Or like, but I literally wonder that. I see the pictures, but I'm like, all the people of the world, we have a lot of trash. Where is it at?
All of these.
I know the stuff. I know some of it gets dumped into the ocean. I know landfills. I know, but like, there's a lot of trash.
Well,
And I still feel like, is there?
I've been reading this book about the Swedish death cleanse. You're welcome. It's all about like cleaning out your closets like you're gonna die. Super fun. And part of the book is talking about how we have all these ways to bring things into our house, right? But not a lot of ways to dispose of things. And so what ends up happening is that we stuff our house because we don't know how to, and we don't have really good ways of getting rid of our stuff. So I think that's a great
I
question.
mean, it just seems we would have ran out of room. Okay.
What's that?
It just seems like we would have ran out of room by now, but
Yeah.
I guess we haven't.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, well, and I honestly, we have a huge landfill problem. And one of the problems that we have is we export the stuff that we throw away. And it ends up in places where they're basically incentivized to create landfills of American stuff. And it's terrible. It's a great question because it actually underneath it is a bunch of things that we probably should face, since we as Americans consume like 40% of the world's goods. another. Have masks, continue eating all of the things. And put the computers down for just a little bit. Another thing. One was the question, now, image selection. And this got a, I have to do a lot of, conference, opening presentations. And one of the things that I realized is that as I age, I'm tired of talking. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, if you're about inquiry, if that's like your signature or whatever, then how are you creating space for folks to do inquiry? Even when you've been asked to speak for an hour, how can you carve out something that then you can pull on later? So this is how this came about. Is it was A, trying to get to reduce the amount of time that I'm talking, and B, to try and get folks to engage with an idea that then I can pull from. And so working with images is a good way to do that. So we're going to do a little image selection. Yay. Demo number 2. Doing another exercise, probably 20 to 30 minutes, building up some inquiry muscle. So here's the simulation. You're at school on a Saturday, just kidding. You're at school Monday morning, the bell rings. Now just take a second and appreciate that interactivity of my PowerPoint. A little bit of jealousy. Did you see that? Let me do it again. I embedded sound into that PowerPoint. So the cue, when I clicked it, are you impressed?
Yes. That's the way.
Class begins in 10 minutes. You are introducing a unit on westward expansion to them.
Where are the phones?
After his.
Exact simulation replication of the Monday.
Yeah, they have pencils. This is not real.
Yeah, we're like, yes, crying, gnashing of, yeah, and there's absolutely less days. Because my son is 16 and I'm always watching kids go into the school and I'm like, does your mom not love you? Because I make him shower every morning for his teachers. I'm like, high school classrooms smell of boy, and so you will not.
Middle school or what?
Get yourself. History class in 10 minutes. You're talking about westward expansion to these folks. What are you going to do? So in your groups, I put a folder of 6 or 7 primary sources. What I want you to do is figure out a 20 to 30 minute exercise you could do with these images. Now, you could use 1, you could use all, you could use 3, be creative teachers. That's your job. Now you have 9 minutes to go. Oh. Okay.
And we have to plan something.
Shark Tank game, where you like have to pitch an idea and I like fire you or put it on. If you think you get fired, no, just kidding. That you get to teach another day or something. That's cool. Bring that together. Or I can do it later.
Oh, yeah.
You know. Just be a joke. All right, so it's an idea of what we're gonna do. Come on, master teachers. Show me Claire. All right.
Now, listen, you have to talk really loud because we're recording and we want everybody to be able to hear it.
Yes, you do. So use your best teacher voice. Go ahead, ladies. Show us how it's done.
So I've done this before, I told them that I did. So, I take the image of the manifest piece of the lady flying in the sky. And break it up into 4 different sections. And so you expose the kids to each section one at a time. And have them have that image. So looking at certain, like going from light to dark. And just having them, I let you share it, so they circle different things on the image instead of typing. And, then we would do a timeline. Only has the, so for a lot of like different thoughts about how I really like doing something. But you take the picture with no caption on it, and you just have a picture. That's it, like the small hours. And they just look at the pictures to see what the pictures are. I help them try to figure out what they are if they can. Or who the people are in it, and I guess we have to have this for everybody. Kind of spot it a little bit. We said we have a whole, but I think you can find how to do.
We're doing this next. I just discovered these, so we are totally doing this.
You can launch a special. And so then junior, we'll take the line like one. Then you do them.
Yeah.
Oh, match the captions. That's awesome.
What?
And then that, but they have to pick which one they do.
Boom. Sounds.
So
neat.
Kathy, can you repeat that? Because we couldn't hear it very well back here. So just kind of sum it up a little bit louder.
All of it or part of it?
Just summary.
Okay, take the Western expansion picture where she's like flying and it's actually
American progress.
Yes, cut that into 4, go quadrant by quadrant on it, talking about what's happening in it. Give them all the other pictures, just the pictures. Have them identify just like stuff in it, what they think it is. That's what we're talking about with the plastic thingy.
So they could draw on it if they wanted
You
to.
can like circle, be like, oh, this is
So you could insert it into some, you could do that with page protectors too, if you can't afford those nice ones.
page protector.
Yes.
Then you give them the caption on it, and with the caption, they have to match them up. Then we go over what the actual answers are, so we're not on it. And then from there, they have to pick the 3 pictures that they think answer the question for what were the causes and effects of Western expansion. And then they have to pick which one as a group they think is the most important picture. And then they have to defend it together.
Great. All right. Who else has? an
Thank
idea?
you.
Yeah.
We said we were gonna start with Foursquare also,
Okay.
but we were gonna have them take the pictures. Where would the pictures fit, where would these pictures fit in on those, on their progress? And then the ones that are missing, find their own pictures that would reflect the meaning of the other ones.
So the idea is to put American progress like in the center of the table.
Yeah.
And have it 4 square and then place the pictures around that have to do with the
Yeah.
The
various
parts of the.
places. So like for instance, the Native Americans that are, fleeing, you would put Native Americans down there, the images of that. The Conestoga wagon might be the buffalo
Or the
skeletons. Yeah, I like it.
But then the ones that are missing, have the kids find their own.
I like it. It's pretty sweet. All right, who's got another idea? Who's got another idea? That was it? We're done? All right. You have to teach another 20 years. Just kidding.
So we focused especially on the Indian land and and the prices, the different prices, things like that. And that got us going to, maybe you just give them as your lead, just the prices, what's the settlement, things like that. Leading to discussion about American progress, an expansion. And then I was thinking you maybe just then open up, okay, Indian land for sale. All of this is, they're expanding, but who's affected by it,
Yeah.
which then leads to discussion about.
Oh, I like that. So it almost becomes a story that you're unfolding over the time with students using these images. I
There's
like
a lot of
it.
comparisons you can do or connections you can do with current economics and looking at the price of land based compared to what it is today. Why there were incentives to go to Washington instead of Kansas, why things are more expensive closer,
Yeah,
salary and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot you can find.
I agree. All right, we need another idea. What's another idea? Elementary. What was your idea?
We were talking about, or we would start off with Foursquare engineering products, that, you know, and have students answer about frequency things or questions they have, questions they can add, and at the end of the week, go back. And that. But in terms of the rest of these, I would love to speak to you strategy.
Okay.
Where
Did you hear that fancy word? Hexagonal teaching theory? Thinking strategy.
What it is you basically can put people, places, images, anything on a hexagon, and you hand it to the student, and they create their own visual thinking map. And then what they have to do is they have to draw connections. Why did you connect these two? Why did you put this here? So it really dives deep into their thinking, and then we do it's like a tabletop conversation, responding to other people's connection, and then coming back and revisiting theirs. By the time they went through all of that, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Then we have something to write about, so you could do it at the beginning preview,
yeah.
and then do it at the end, and see how the thinking can change.
Yeah, I love that. That's my son, those of you know me, I'll come back to him. But he's been studying westward expansion, 1800 to 1848, did a push final yesterday, so we super fun in the house, last 48 hours. But anyway, one of the things that I said was like, I was putting that image and they studied in his class. And I was like, so tell me about this image, because I think it could be one of your short answers or one of your BBQs. He goes, manifest destiny. And, you know, like what else? And I mean, it was interesting because he resisted doing that kind of thinking, which is take this picture apart and tell me about all different pieces. Don't tell me, yeah, no, manifest that.
You know, why is this image?
Yeah.
The image of
Yeah.
westward expansion.
Yeah, what does it, you know, whose perspective, what's the perspective, and to really dissect the symbol. I'm gonna look that up.
I can send that information to Kay and she can edit.
Yeah, what's it called? Hexagonal thinking. Hexagonal thinking strategy. Did you all know that? And I'm the only one who didn't know it. All right, sorry. Okay. I was, it's very smart. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, and of course, it's from cause effects. And analyzing the same way that everybody else was, but then looking at the source of the common operation. Yeah. Aspiration of that. Are they? Oh, I love it. Yeah, finding cooperating resources for those. I like it a lot. Good, yeah.
We made
like ending on the bottom left and talking about like the Native Americans, then of course showing all the rest of the Native American images and things as well. But then Kenna mentioned like having students maybe because American Progress is very much a showing like a God's will sort of perspective. How would a Native American maybe draw that image? Yeah, and like looking at that perspective, if like, what the woman in, how would she be depicted by that? Yeah.
And how would the conversation end if a Native person was networks right now? I love that. That's challenging with this, you know, it's manifesting mom, you know, I'm like, yeah, but okay, let's unpack that, you know, by thinking about how would a Native person see this particular portrait and how are they represented? And the idea that all images have perspective. I think that. I love that. Super smart. Anybody else? Anyone else want to share? Could share a great idea, like a hexagonal thinking strategy that I've learned today? I sent that to you guys. So
Thank
I
you.
did this with my son Thursday night before his exam. So I was just trying to get him to, I don't know what I was trying to do. Trying to be super 18 months. And so anyway, I was getting ready for this. And so I put these out in front of him and I said, if you were going to teach about westward expansion, which sources would you use for fifth graders? And it was interesting. You want to know which ones he chose? Yes, you do. He chose the modern image of the Indian with the crossed out land. He said, I think that says it all, Mom. And I was like, well, you clearly descend from social studies royalty. That's what I was just thinking. I haven't explained this thinking and, you know, never said the name, Mom. And I'm like, no, tell me more. You know, I want to know all these things. But I thought it was really interesting what he gravitated to. When I do this with new teachers, they immediately gravitate to the map. I'd only use the map and maybe American Progress. And I'm like, I mean, those are good sources, but anyway, so I was trying to do these more and more where I curate a set of sources of 6 to 8 and then ask, in this case, teachers to do something with them, but you could clearly ask students just in the way that I did my dad, or not my dad, my son. So another example, I've done this with the Holocaust group. You were there. And so I put together a series of images that weren't as, you know, you have to be really careful with sort of traumatic times in history that you're not going for shock and awe, but that you're selecting images that are probably shocking in some level, but they're not. Like I've never put an image of a lynching, for instance, or an image that I had to be real careful with the Holocaust because that, you know, can be obviously really tricky. So I chose pictures of shoes, for instance, and a picture of Anne Frank. And then I like creating a little bit of narrative and then you can play with that. But I like the idea that students are manipulating things. And I don't know if you noticed what happened when we started this, but all of a sudden, the volume in the room became super productive, right? Super productive conversation. So I'm drawn to these more and more. So that's demo number 2. We have one more thing to do. And so I want to give you just 4 or 5 minutes to stretch, and then we're going to do one more thing, and then you're going to choose your own event. So 5 minutes, and then we're going to get started right at.
And the hexagonal resources that were shared with me, I have added those to the bottom of your agenda, so you should all have access to them now.
Okay, thank you for telling the truth. It's a good more than 70% of you don't know, but these things exist. And so my husband went around to the Walgreens and bought them up for me for today. He's like, how can I help you? I said, go to Walgreens and collect these because I think they're super cool. And so then I spent the last 3 or 4 days thinking about how can we use these. So this is what we're doing. We are going to use these with something new. Just because I wanted to. And we're going to call it image annotation. And for those of you who have already been doing it forever, you need to pretend that you have it. So image annotation with Happy's Fun Find at Walgreens. So as I said, we've been studying the period in Greece. I'm really doing well, I think, in English this year. I've got a solid A. So I'll tell you a little funny story that. So yesterday was his first written exam where he didn't have to take it home. And I'm so worried that he bombed it and it's going to look like I helped him cheat. Come on, Ray, you've got to kill this because I'll just want to cheers. Anyway. That was wow. Anyway, so we just studied Andrew Jackson and he sort of prepping that for the DDQ to, in an exam yesterday, and so we were looking at a variety of different political things. Have you ever seen this? All right, so if you were teaching this, what are some of the first things that you would talk about? to students? What would you have them notice? What are some things that are happening? He's riding a pig, which is sort of the big story. So what does that mean that he's riding a pig? Pigs are fat and greedy, and so it's making sort of, and it's not an analogy, but it's saying that, you know, here he is riding this fat and greedy. Oh no, my battery is falling out. Can you fix this? What's that? And they'll eat anything, right? Absolutely. What else do you notice? What else do you notice about this?
There's some skulls down at the bottom.
Say it again.
The words to the victors belong to spoil, so it's like he wants them.
Yeah, yeah. So to the victor goes the spoils. What is this referring to? The spoil system, which was what? I mean, don't we just do that now? You know, everybody in the government and replace them with his kitchen cabinet, right? All of his supporters, and people thought that that was smarmy, right? When in fact, that's what we do now, right? So to the victor along with spoils, they've got his name, Andrew Jackson, other things that you notice. What are sort of at the base? Can you see what's at the base of the pig?
And a skull and crossbones.
Yeah, and there's Andrew Jackson, you know, took the hat. Yeah, right.
Those look kind of crappy like though.
Now, right, it's sort of a negative, and at this time, I think this was a Thomas.
This would make sense because.
You guys remember, or is that kind of his early play?
Can you hold off? Janet, tell them what you think about his hair. Oh,
Fix my face.
I thought it was a great observation. It's over here.
Thinking about her here, because I was thinking, oh, political cartoons, I've been doing that all week with Grayson, and I found these cool sleeves, and so I was like, oh, how could we play with this with images? And so I was sort of like, well, how to get students to look at the elements that an artist used during a cartoon, and I found this really good handout by Colonial Williamsburg. You all probably already have good ones, but I think this one was really clear. You know, that you're looking for symbolism, you're looking for exaggeration and distortion, you're looking at stereotypes, caricature, humor and irony, and even captions to tell you what the artist is trying to convey. Now, if I were working with students, I might spend a little bit more time on each of those, but I'm working with master teachers on a Saturday, we gotta get going. So, anyway, I put this out for you. And cartoon.
There he is wearing a crown.
Cartoon that I was thinking we could take this criteria and sort of imitate a political cartoon this morning. So one of the things I think we all struggle with students is having them pay attention to detail. So here's another Jackson cartoon that's identifying him in words of the king rather than a president, that he's holding a scroll that says veto around the return of the National Bank. He's wearing a robe, a crown, holding a scepter. He's stomping on the Constitution and the seal of Pennsylvania, where the second bank is from. So I like this idea of annotating a political cartoon. And so, as you know, maybe some of you, if not all of you, know that we actually have a really famous political cartoonist here in Kentucky. His name is Joel Pett, and he works at the Lexington Herald. Was anybody there when he was the keynote at KCSS? And so you remember how awkward and terrible that was. I mean, he was fascinating, but he talked about all sorts of things in sport. And I had my son there because I thought, oh, he'll learn about political cartoons. And he was like 9. And so it was, he started shaving after that.
I'd hate for everybody to hear this online, but when I first started teaching, I live in Jessamine County and that's where he lives. And I invited him to school and we were in the library and he brought a clipboard of paper, you know, and I had all the kids in the library. I saw my career flash before my very eyes.
Yeah.
He said, think how many years ago, some of you weren't born, and he was saying the F word.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And he was drawing, of course, he's the one that created the weasel for our
Yeah.
governor.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I'm just thinking, oh, it'll never, the kids loved him, but I just thought, it's bad. Fortunately, we didn't have internet back then, and apparently they didn't go home until I lived through it. Oh, it would have been awful.
Yeah, I had that same thing where I brought Ray with me, thinking, I mean, he was so young, he was like 10 years old, and I was like, oh, you'll learn about cartoons, look at me, her mom, you know, and then halfway through, I'm like, do I leave? Do I leave with my son? Because everybody was watching me as a parent and how I'm managing this, and Grayson was just like, oh, drawing, you know, he wasn't taking any of it in, but he was talking about like, and like, I'm like, it's stay on the, you know, anyway. With that said. Really interesting if you don't actually. If you spend a little time with.
So don't invite him to your classroom.
And my son knew his favorite. So before you have a list of criteria, and I'd like to start with this political cartoon. So this guy, and I gave you a bunch of expo markers. And if you got one of these, it has an eraser on the back of it. Just a little oohing and eyeing like fireworks. Did you see this happen today? Anyway, what I want you to do is I'd like you to annotate this cartoon for these different types of things that are in political cartoons. Identify what the symbols are, identify if there's any exaggeration or distortion, stereotypes, caricature, humor and irony. There's definitely some of that in any caption. So see what you can do with this political cartoon and having fun with expo markers.
Can you put the other one up, just so we know what
This one?
you don't mind?
Yeah, sure.
So somebody wanted that look in and bring it if you want. I have to, I was interested, but I didn't know.
See if you can find.
Okay, so it was, okay, oh, it's just.
Now, I put all of these up at wall, so you cannot buy into. $20.
And what are they called? Kathy,
So.
They're called what? Dry
erase
erase packets.
I mean, isn't that like the coolest, just dumbest gimmick?
Yes, I love it.
I love gimmicks.
But the thing is, I did this before with a page protector.
Yeah, but it's not an actual dry erase packet, Kay.
You're
So when
right.
you upload the dry erase packet, then it goes a lot different.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Watch
They
that.
can tell.
Yeah.
Students respond.
You know, like back when we started.
Political parts.
It's kind of like when I bought those Kagan had those little dry erase boards that were like
Yeah.
paper thin.
Yeah.
And that was like, this is the best thing since, I mean, like I felt like I was winning.
Graduation to school. This one? Higher. It is on fire, it's global warming, but okay. But there's not, okay.
You're not literally walking the park.
Okay, not yet.
It's,
No law.
but it's a different kind of wool.
Okay, you can do that, I'll let you do that. Okay.
symbol that's in this cartoon. What's one symbol? Go ahead. The symbol of the United Nations, right in the middle. Okay, good. What's another symbol that's in this little cartoon? The earth. The earth's on fire, which is not only just a symbol, but also an exaggeration. Yeah, good. Okay, what's another symbol that's up there? Any other symbols? Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think that symbolizes? Nothing's being done, right? United Nations. Any other symbols that you see? Any other symbols? The mirror. The what? The mirror. The mirror. I don't know. You mean over on the right?
It's an empty chart. Place to sit.
Flaming birds.
From the.
Anything else?
The guy is all kinds of.
It's a little exaggerated, right? And the
Scary.
facial features of the folks are a little distorted. What about stereotypes? Are there any stereotypes?
All of the people.
Or the scientists, you look like. Oh, yeah.
It's probably yes, because he's a hat.
I think he's definitely American.
Mhm.
Symbolic in the US in what way?
And he's angry. I'm speaking American a little bit. For
Yeah.
especially for.
That's true.
Oh.
What did she say?
They said he's so loud with the US because that's his underline.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
It makes it
Joel is brilliant.
What caricature? What's a caricature that's in there? Yeah, go ahead.
Could be, okay, because when we were looking at like exaggerating characters, stereotypes, I was wondering, I was like, are these supposed to be people that I should know around the world or whatever? Because we were debating like, is the rich white guy, like he does look like anybody from DC that's got power.
Yeah.
I thought it might be Al Gore, but I wasn't sure. Al Gore, McConnell, and then the little girl over there in the braids, I was like, is that Greta?
Yeah. She's sort of looking back.
She's mad at us.
Yeah. So what's the humor, irony / passion? What's the humor and irony in this?
It's the future generations.
Yeah, in what way? Go ahead.
Because future generations can't do anything for us.
It's great. I love that passion, but what the future generations ever done for us? So that's good. Yeah. Anything else that you notice? Anything else?
I guess, well, yeah, like everybody else is looking at him and they're all older, but then the youngest, which of course is gonna affect her the most, she's looking straight at us into the camera, so to speak, like.
Yeah. Are you
What
kidding?
would I have to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, way to go, boomers.
Yeah.
I just like, now I'm using it all the time, and yes. They were different ages, genders. Yeah. Yeah. They look diverse, they're all. Yeah, and they don't look very entertained by them, do they? Yeah. Yeah, I like this cartoon, there's just a lot going on. All right, let's do that one. Because we're having fun. So flip over your magic packet. And I want you to do the same thing. And if you realize, man, it's right, this has an eraser at the end. You don't even think of stealing these, because this is my parting gift today. I'm so excited about it. So flip it over and here's the next question. I want you to
This was saying is the
work, imitate it for these 5 lists.
In 2016, that one was.
Yeah. All right. Exaggeration, and distortion. What are some exaggerated, distorted things that are happening? Yeah. And that is an exaggeration. That's not nothing. Jon Snow, I mean, Pat. I'm like, what else? What else is exaggerated? Yeah. The man, not the little bit out.
We'll make our own rules.
Yeah. 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 The plutocracy was, yeah. Right, super clever. All right, what about stereotypes? What stereotypes are sort of in here? Are there any? Yeah.
Going back to the theocracy one, I guess the costumes, the facial hair, the appearances, all like the eye hole up the line. Like I said, the others had the hat cross. The best, I guess I can say, off that means the Vatican, because those are the two examples of theocratic governments.
Legit, right? Like that's.
It's very smart.
Yeah, yeah. Meanwhile.
Yeah.
Rome is burning. Okay, yeah.
New observation that everything is right set up in separate markers.
Oh.
There's some great.
Hey, kids, Pat, maybe the man, he's the sweetest man. He's so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so how does he use humor and irony? How do you think, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I've had some wow moments from the last couple comments, so like, democracy being like overturned here, that even though like this date at the bottom, this cartoon was drawn December 14th, 2016.
Oh, we were
And
so young and innocent back
we
then,
couldn't
right?
read the caption, like, this game's too hard, what else is out there? And I was like, basically ever since like Trump was elected in 2016, this ongoing debate, America, our democracies in jeopardy, authoritarian government, what is America headed toward? We're seeing these parallels with other countries that have gone through stuff like this. And I don't know, our capitals overturned it.
Oh, right, like it was prophetic or something?
For Jay already know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that when I was picking a political cartoon, I was really, really trying to go back to Tom Stewart. And I was trying not to do anything like that. Because I didn't,
Did you notice that Mr.
now I
Potato
see
Head
it,
is
there's probably some of that with the date. To me, it looked like
think that
he
might be-
was making more of a
Oh, it's just
statement
going on.
about all that's happening in Europe and how we're interacting with that.
He's basically.
But it probably speaks to our domestic situation as well as our international.
Like we
He's still standing.
judgy, like we're like, oh, we think we do things better, but then it's like, we've been compared to like, the rich run our country, oligarchy, like we've been, there's been time, I mean, we still have those Puritan values that, Christian nationalism, we got all those.
Yeah, yeah. we
Okay, we have
definitely-
a question
Yeah.
about the box at the top. The very top one, it looks like it's chaos with a K backwards. Or it could be soap spelled backwards. What is that?
It's chaos.
I get chaos.
K with a K? It's like, that's the only one that's not really related to a government. So they just say everything's chaos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spelling today, it's in.
It's text spelling.
My sense too is that he was picking on games that are already out there and playing
Yeah.
obviously with words, so Nazi. I love Nazi, now he's ruined it. oligopoly, cult of personality, kleptocrats. So he uses humor and irony, pretty on the nose, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, like this.
Not only do you have to feel
Yeah.
you have to know enough to make it.
Yeah. But we're still like, I don't know, playing with it.
Yeah, or people, there's some people out there that like, want to move towards that or towards those, whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing, although, what else, okay, this game's going, what else is out there, it's all been played,
We know what's out there.
and there are still people that want to play it, yeah, you're right.
That's interesting, my next.
Oh, that's
thing. Well
interesting.
done, Baru. That oftentimes the magic sleeves, I think are good. Any kind of coding annotation is good, but where you all were headed was, what is the overall? What are you trying to say? And what is your pet trying to say overall? And so that was something I was, again, that criticism, that's what I was trying to work with him. So it is a comic mass cartoon. So anyway, I think like I was playing with how to get him to understand this political cartoon. Like I think this is an easier one than a lot of them, but it's not as refined in terms of the characteristics like the Joel Pet ones, right? And so I had this, so I thought, well, what if you started with a really robust modern day one with students and then go back in time to like this Thomas Nast one and have them do the same sort of process with that. But that ultimately what you want students to do is to do the so what, right? And so I started playing with, obviously the political cartoon by Thomas Nast, April 77, Harper's Weekly. And then I wrote a short paragraph about it, right? That the sort of, this artist uses irony, including words that seem to mock and otherwise create idea. Here, Andrew Jackson is seen in his military uniform riding a hog. The hog is rooting through trash, including words like fraud, bribery, and plunder. Eagles, blah, blah, blah. So like what I was trying to do with Grayson, you're welcome, was to have a topic sentence and then to back it up with evidence and then to bring it back home around what is the point of this thing. And so as I was thinking about this exercise, I was thinking that's what it's setting them up to do. That ultimately the assessment or the formative summative assessment could be create a caption for this political cartoon, noting the things that you did during the annotation, getting at the so what is the artist trying to convey? Does that make sense? But it not being 100 pages, but like a good solid paragraph, that this could be an exercise to get you to something like this. Make sense?
Because I think I have problems with just kind of landing the ship
Yeah.
every time, and all the things that we looked at today. I mean, we want to get them talking, we want to get them asking questions, we want to get them, saying what they see, because that's a difficulty that they have. But mine is, we gotta land it, help them to land it.
Yeah.
To, what does all this mean?
I love that phrase. We got to get them to land it. And here's another thing that I've learned recently, and maybe you already do this along with hexagonal strategic thinking, whatever that is. But one of the things we started playing with Ray is speech to text. Have you guys played it all with speech to text in a Microsoft Word document? A lot of times, what I've noticed with Ray, and I think is probably true for a lot of kids, is their oral fluency is much greater than their written fluency. And so we recently got him an accommodation to do speech to text because I kept listening to him going, damn, you know a lot. You know a lot more than you're able to represent in writing. And so I could even see them using, and speech to text is not like what we grew up with, boomers, it's like super good now. So, and all you do is you open up a Microsoft Word and just where it has a microphone, they speak this in, and then they just edit from there. So it doesn't even have, you can land the plane by sort of lifting. Yeah, land the plane, shift, land the ball by using, I think that's another way where you lift the load a little finicky, but it helps with the fluency that's there that sometimes gets bogged down in the writing. It's super good for dyslexic kids. And Google Docs, yeah, typically all accommodations are good for all kids. Grace is a little resistant to mom and getting, to make that change. He said to me, Mom, I would have a different student. So if you're trying to get this ready, and you try to do something different, you might want to give that a try. Super easy and which to me is different. So anyway, this is the annotation. And here's another one, which is an annotation of the other famous cartoon about the national day. But this is, sort of what I'm thinking about is that you go from annotation to landing the frame. But what's the point in the bigger ideas that are here and what are getting conveyed? All right, so we're going to take a quick 4-minute break, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you your challenge. So 4 minutes. You can get them on Amazon Prime. I think I bought up all the ones at Walgreens within New Circle Road. But you buy like $19.99. You just Google Dry Crate and the whole new world. You got a colored one, you can get an elastic line.
And if you can get the dry erase pens with the erasers on the end, then you are like king of the world, queen of the world.
Okay, so what do for I probably could do is sketch you up for some more time. So this is how you know I'm an education professor. I'm going to do a Dewey quote, right? So we'll get this out of the way. My standard joke is my cramp down to another now. So Dewey, back in 1916, said, only by wrestling with the conditions of the problem at first hand, seeking and finding the only way out, does he think. So any of you have been teaching a long time. I feel like as a teacher, I become, over time, I've taught for about 30 years, and it doesn't look like that, sure. But over time, I feel like I'm returning to the questions that I started with, except in a more sort of maybe sophisticated way, like you've kind of gone the road of supercalifragilistic and come back to what are the foundations of a good education? What does it mean? What am I going to give you when you walk away from this class? And ultimately about the decisions that I make instructionally. And so I keep coming back to this quote when I make decisions about my class. How am I having my students wrestle with something? Where is the place where they're legitimately wrestling with an idea? So all of the things we did today were wrestling with ideas, whether it's images around water, whether it's political cartoons, or whether it's the westward expansion. I'm trying to create more spaces in my class, even if I'm not inside an inquiry proper, where students have a chance to wrestle with something legitimately, a big idea, even if I keep it to 20, 30 minutes. So that's the reinvention. So what I like to call these are low threshold, high yield exercises. And it's no hexagonal, whatever, but I call them low threshold, high. I'm going to keep screwing it up worse and worse as the day progresses. So what do I mean by that? Why would I call these three things that we've done this morning low threshold, high yield? What's that mean? Low threshold, high yield. You made the mistake. Can I just tell you of muttering? So I live downtown And I walk every morning at like between 6 and 7 a.m. And it's a little like Dawn of the Dead, it's crazy. I call it the gratitude walk. But anyway, there are a lot of people who live homeless downtown who mutter to themselves. And so I was walking the other day, I was like, damn, there are a lot of people muttering to themselves. And that feels crazy. And then like 5 minutes later, I was like muttering about something I was angry about. And I was like, oh, wow. We just mutter as teachers. Anyway, go ahead.
There's not a lot of work on the backside, but you get a lot out of it on the front side, I guess. But like, you don't have to put too much effort into it, but you can get a lot out of it.
Almost. Okay. Almost. But what I would say is I spent an inordinate amount of time putting these, almost comically so, putting these exercises
Low
together.
entry point for them, but
But it's a low entry point. Then images are a low entry point. On a Saturday, teachers are tired, you put images in front, and all of a sudden you get to these big conversations, right? Students are even worse, right? So images, however you configure them, provide a low threshold, meaning they come in from the hallway, they're it's, the week before they get a winter break, and an image, a really good image, can settle it down and settle their thinking because they're not reading Thomas Paine's Common Sense or the Federalist Papers, right?
That's what
So
I
a
do on
good
the weekend,
image
Thomas
can
Paine, we're
do
picking
a
it.
lot more. Look at that Andrew Jackson writing a pig, right? You can talk about the entire spoil system right through that image. Low threshold, high yield, right? And so I think that's the power of a good image exercise. It's not easy. It's just, it's low threshold, high yield. So what we thought, Kay and I thought would be good to do today is to give you a chance to develop an additional, it sounds like all of you already have some of these, but to develop an additional low threshold, high yield exercise with images. So inquiry is about choices. You have 3 choices. Your first choice is to design a QFT exercise with perhaps that image, what I call an image, immersion experience, right? Where you have sound and image, and I can show you how to do that. It's essentially a PowerPoint
Yes.
of 70 images that are punctuated by quotes that have sound to that then comes to the QFT. So to me, the QFT is all about the Q focus. So your time is really going to be spent thinking about what is going to prompt students to ask questions that they submit. I put these slides, the QFT slide, in that folder I showed you. So you're not recreating these, you are creating the Q focus and then using those. That's door number one.
She want that on that agenda.
Door number 2 is an image selection exercise. So this is like the westward expansion, where you curate, 5, I would say, to 8 images. And you have students select images or try to use those images in some kind of meaningful way. I gave the example of westward expansion and the Holocaust. I will tell you, to do this well, I think you have to spend a lot of time thinking about curation. So you'll notice in the westward expansion, I tried to have a story that I told, but I also tried to use different types of sources, like modern day sources, in addition to sort of, kind of the reliable sources, and then things in between, maps versus images versus advertisements. So curating a set of 5 to 8 that have students deliberate those images. Your third choice is to get on Amazon and buy something, please. I think this just has a lot of power. So yeah, you can choose some political cartoons, I think are an interesting way to go, but you might need something else. Where students ultimately create some sort of landing place that they are at, right? And you just have time to work. So those are your choices. It's also, it's your choice lunch is here, it sounds like. So what we could do is break for lunch and then come. We can't. It's breaks for. Okay. Anyway, we can lunch now and come back, and work, or we can work for a little bit and then take lunch. So who wants to have lunch now? It's here. It's here. So who wants to have lunch now? So we should. Saturday, who wants to work for the day? I think we should take a lunch now. It seems like. A little early is what I'm thinking. So I would like a little share thing that I have planned from 1 to 1:30. Take a quick break and then we've got a challenge in the day with some energy. Does that make sense? I'll do a little benediction at the end. And then scrolling, watching TV, drinking time, you know. Okay. The option. You have 3 options if you forgot over your sandwich. One is the design of Q focus for a QFT. The slides are in the folder. I'll show you that in a second. Second option is to design an image selection where you curate 5 to 8 images. I like to use PowerPoint to house those images. Think of Westward expansion or the Holocaust option that I showed you. And then the third is to do an image annotation. And I showed you where to get those cool sleeves, match sleeves on Amazon. You can order those, they'll be here by Monday if you have Prime, and you can design what's going to go in the sleeve and how you're going to do it. So I kind of think political cartoons would be cool, and you may, and I'll help you if you pretended to know what speech to text was. That's something I would do, is pretend to know and then ask my husband later. So I'm happy to show you that speech to text function and how that works. So you're gonna have time to work. Let me just show you up in the folder on the internet. There's an example of the one that I use with Indian removal. It's a PDF. I also put up the political cartoon stuff. So I copied and pasted that, and then you could just don't use this one, but copy this resource, and then you could play with this for your class. Don't worry about the Ken Burns thing. The QFT slides are here. Okay, so hopefully those are some resources, and I'll come around and find elsewhere I can. So you've now got 50 minutes. 50 minutes to come up with something that's gonna razzle dazzle. You're welcome. All right, 50 minutes. Yeah. Of course, that's what we did. I'd like to take 15 to 20 minutes and do that. We'll take a break, and then I've got a last challenge for you before we end for the day and roll and numb ourselves, just whatever we do. Let me count you off up to 8. We need 4 groups of 8. So we're gonna start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8.
1, 2, 3, 4,
5. Tell her. 6, 7, 8,
1, 2, 3.
5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So let's see. If you're a 1, I want you. So there's going to be groups of 4. So if you're, what I'd like you to do is move, share what you've been working on, and go around the circle, and then we will take break. So 1s, 2s, 3s, 4-ish, yeah. 5, yeah, 6, 7-ish, and then 8-ish. And get some exercise.
Slide 2.
Slide.
2.
Here.
I wouldn't take it all myself. I wouldn't take it.
I have a prayer one in here.
Oh, I'm fine. Over here.
Where are we going?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Alright, I'm walking.
No, we're gonna be.
If you're trying to get to kind of,
So,
so when did you work? Yeah, I think like around 50. Yeah, your work. And a lot of it, and I understand, like, that we have to do that. And they only have about an hour there. We did try out. And all the time we had these questions. I can't believe however. Maybe logging my. I really like that one. I really want to know what's not worried. But these are all the stones.
yes.
So. I use like a lot of. That's what I felt over day. You know, it's so. Well. And she got it off. Wow.
Well.
I did. And then I feel like I checked it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, y'all are-
Yeah, well, it's pretty good here.
So, it'll take- Right.
That's really close.
Into their time, I'd like you. Right, so you have 2 minutes to go get whatever chocolate and drinks, go to the restroom, take a walk outside, 10 minutes, 1:40. We'll be back here for our last action. Get back to your group, each room that you're in right now. All right, 15 minutes.
Well,
It was more. Our friend Renee. Working for. Around all of us.
Computer's not working. And I had unplugged it. And they promote it right now, she's still offer a virtual. So we have and have you seen your video? Yes.
Yeah, we were there together. He's really close.
Yeah. Pay attention. Yeah, one last thing to do. Our computers have asked you to just wipe your eyes for just 2 minutes, right? All right, we're gonna do our last shun of the day. And I have been trying to work in that like 70s song, you know, the motion song. She's got the motion, rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Some of you are as old as I am and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're gonna do image curation as our last and final exercise. And so, I've never done this either before, but I'm wanting to. I read this article, a couple of weeks ago in the Atlantic. You can imagine, I saw the title, and I was like, what does it have to say? Ken Burns tells America's history through 6 photographs. And you wonder immediately, what are those? What could he have possibly chosen? Well, guess what, game watchers? We are going to look at those 6 images. So what I'd like you to do in that folder is a document called Ken Burns Tells America's History Through 6 Photographs. And so, and I did make
this for you today. What would I choose and why? So he's picked 6 photographs. I would like group 1 to take that photograph, group 2 to take this photograph, group 3 take this photograph, group 4 take this photograph, group 5 take this photograph, group 6 take this photograph, and then group 7 take this photograph, and group 8 take this photograph. And what I want you to do is click on the arm right here and tell me why he chose that. There's a short paragraph about each of the images and why he chose it. So I want you as a group to read why he chose the image that he chose. And we'll have a quick discussion and then I'm gonna have an add on. So, with me? So as a group, you have to come together, tell me why you chose that photograph. Get down, you good. Can you get in? Yeah. 1340. Oh, you guys are
Protest. Doors. Yeah.
We only have like 2 minutes for this. That's the first thing I noticed. And we've been trying, but how does fitting that must have better?
Doors, something.
Unprecedented. Great, but read his description. Right, so everybody with me? If I give you one more minute, we'll be ready to figure it out. We're gonna make them, if you wanna come help, even if my partner is there.
They're like in the middle of. Right, yeah, that unprecedented corruption also.
But I'm saying.
About this image. We're 1 and 7, everybody's listening, we're listening, and we're walking and listening, go. Why, what was this image about? Susan and Anthony, okay, very famous, separate kids. And, but who, also infamously known for, we were talking like, there were the 2 issues of Black people getting the right to vote and women getting the right to vote, which prioritize women getting the right to vote. And so, yeah, okay. Anything to add to this one, to this image that you read?
Yeah, she was arrested for illegally passing smoke. For sure.
Why do you think he chose this picture as one of the top 6? What do you think? Why do you think he chose it?
He's a flawed individual who still.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. She was flawed, but still moved the country forward in a limited fashion, but moved it forward. Good. All right, let's do the next one.
Hey, why didn't you say I was smart?
You are super smart. It would be redundant, so I didn't want to make everybody feel bad. So this one sort of surprised me, like who cares about Rutherford v. Hayes, if there was one? So what's happening in this? Why did he, what is this photograph about? And feel free to chime in group 8.
The compromise on page 77, it starts the discussion. We talked about involvement. We talked about so honestly, there was a lot of stuff there from time. Anything to add for date?
If politics at its finest, right? Oh, hey. All right, group 20. What you got? What's this?
So pictures from the 1912 Democratic National Convention, we nominated Woodrow Wilson, who back to the kind of flawed human, push forward. He's kind of the inverse of Susan B. Anthony, push forward women's suffrage, but chose some racially questionable things like he screened Birth of the Nation as the first film ever shown in the White House. But that was the reason we given for why Burns shows the picture.
Ah, good. Okay, let's see the next one. This one right here. Huey Long. Group. What are we on? 4? Group 4. Huey Long.
Well, it's a gathering, obviously, with Governor Long's grouping there that's backing him. He was kind of, I guess, based on the reading that we had there, he was on the side of the common man, so he kept that vote against what others may have thought.
Yeah, good. Okay, let's see the next one. Group, are we at 6? Times Square, group 6. What's happening in here?
It's a massive crowd waiting for election news in Times Square. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. They found out that night that FDR defeated Wendell Willkie and been reelected for an unprecedented 3rd term.
All right.
Waiting in Times Square.
All right, good. Let's do the last one. So group 6, tell us about this last picture that he chose.
I think it was very really. It's like one of the things we pointed out, she's the only female in the picture, which is intimidating in itself. Because the men are all especially over on the right hand side, they're kind of looking at her to me, but the audacity. And then furthermore, it goes her skin color, to be that intimidating and she's, which, she has her back to you, but she doesn't look scared. She still looks like she's standing proud and to me, that's just my personal opinion. But she still looks like she's standing proud and she's gonna go to that courthouse, no matter if there are men standing there.
Yeah, I think from a photographic perspective too, it's shooting up, right? So there's this idea of moving forward, or, we see the back of her, as she moves forward, and still ahead, it's a complex scene, right? In the background. So that's really good. If you had to summarize what Ken Burns is trying to get at with these 6 images, what are some of the powerful words that you would synthesize these 6 images with? What are some words that would help synthesize what he's going for in these 6 images? Strength. Progress. Conviction.
Revelation.
Complexity.
Revolution.
Revolution. Anything else? The title was persistent tension. So tension, I guess. Oh, that's a great title. Most persistent tension. Good. All right. So this was your job, your last challenge for me, because I thought it would be interesting to think about what did I miss? Add an image and tell me why I should include it. So each group, 1 through 8, should choose an image that you think would add to Ken Burns' 6. What's an iconic image I've labeled up here, group 1, And I want you to get the title, the location, you're the artist, and then a place to add your photo there. So. Go for it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm so mad. I don't know what they want to do. I'll play it from I love it. They included them. But yeah, that's the other side of the world. More so than concentration. That's all. Although everyone might be I think that or like that's yeah. All right, you have. Yeah. We have this one, right?
Is this someone during? Yeah. Yeah, no, there's full photograph from the horse.
You have 1 minute, okay?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
I'll choose the same day.
Yeah.
Better than. Just do it. I don't know. Yeah.
Now it's time to share. There's actually, there's a funny person in the audience, so I don't know if that come out. So we're gonna start with the first image. So group number 1, tell us why you chose this iconic image and how does that extend the narrative that you think is either missing or needs to put a fine point on it with Ken Burns.
The thing we were looking at in the previous pictures was about, from the subtitle, tension. And a lot of the images were people who have done things to, overcome obstacles. Really walking the Susan and stuff like that. And then we thought her walking through a crowd of angry students being screamed at, demonstrated what she was willing to do to get what she wanted, what she deserves.
Yeah, it's everything that you said, and then also like, you're very stoic, right? You're not reacting to it. And one thing that, sure we all know, like, they weren't just escorted that day, they were escorted throughout the entire school year, not only in the building, but also for class for the rest of the school year. So just kind of knowing the facts behind it and how they carried themselves throughout this entire school year, or that entire school year, and just the impact that it had.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the book, something like Don't Let Them See You Cry. And I think it was by the FBI agent that followed, I think it was FBI that followed and were the sort of folks that preserved the peace at the Little Rock school. And they talk about how he couldn't intervene even though he saw these terrible things being in the police, and, he at one point said, don't let them cry. So we stood that for it. It makes me think, I'll just take a little moment I watched the young woman who was assaulted recently at the University of Kentucky went sort of national this week. She went on CBS Sunday Morning. Did anybody see that interview? I was resisting because I was just so mortified that happened, but I ended up watching it. And it reminded me of this image. Like, if you've seen any part of that video, you guys know the story that I'm talking about? This young freshman African-American student was working at 3 a.m. as like a dorm, sort of steward or RA or whatever. And this young University of Kentucky student was drunk and out of her mind. And she assaulted this young woman for 10 minutes with the N-word, with the Z-word, all the words. And what was interesting about the interview with CBS Sunday Mornings is she and her mom were interviewed, and her mom was saying how proud she was that she didn't respond, and then they had some question of, well, why do we never get to respond? Which was an interesting conversation, but she was talking about the sort of stoicness of this young woman in the face of, I can't even imagine being yelled at like that for 10 minutes was such a violent word. But I agree with you that it's an interesting choice because we've had that and it hasn't gone, that sort of violence hasn't gone away. So great job. All right, this is where we're really going to get violent in this room, because I think 2 or 3 of the groups, not sure who did it first, chose, I would think it should be in a minute, chose this photograph. So why don't you both groups start talking at the same time?
We did this, I mean, what if it's like, I started typing it, she said the same time, I was typing it. So, I mean, it's going on the instance that like, Barack Obama, like, getting an option. Like, is it for me? I just know my grandma.
It's emotional. Yeah. Do you all want to add to that?
So, yeah, they will overcome it. Get through it and get it. That's what I did with my sister friend. To be a black guy in the kid, I know, some of those things happen, happened in 1964, I'm like, 40. And so, I tell them about my mother had cancer, and she never thought she was sick. So that's what made it amazing. A lot of those things at the time people never knew it was going to possible. You know what's happening. And then these things happen.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, like you would expect, I mean, I think gay marriage was the same thing, like all of a sudden overnight, like where did that come from? We were threats to the point where we're recognizing that. So I remember that too. What's interesting about this is the persistent tension and even the backlash to Obama's presidency that I think many of us sense, all of us sense now what's going on in the country. So I think both groups did an amazing job of choosing this first. Okay. Sounds good. Group 3 now.
So we picked this, Deb Howland, who's now Secretary of the Interior, in charge of the Department of Indian Affairs. First, one of the first 2 Native women inaugurated into House of Representatives. Took till 2019, and she chose to wear, I mean, she's Pueblo. Chose to wear a native dress to her swearing in ceremony. We also looked at Ben Nicholas Campbell, who gave speeches on the House floor in full headdress and everything. But it took until 2019 to talk pensions for representation in Congress before the wedding.
what are the persistent tensions that, yes, an amazing moment, but what are some of the persistent tensions that she's even looking into?
Gender and race and black skin.
Gosh, she's made it a point to look at Indian boarding schools, made it boarding schools and made that a sort of push for reconciliation and, or not reconciliation, but just truth and reconciliation around in American history. So,
We often look at like the boarding school pictures with the kids side by side, with their the new way that they look. But I said something about the other 6 pictures. I said, well, you've got gender and you've got race. I said, but we're still overseeing the Native Americans. I said, we're talking about American history and we still like that.
yeah, I'll give you a good show if you haven't started watching it on Netflix. It's not on Netflix, it's on Prime. So, and I don't work for Amazon, but you can my second plug for them today, which is, it's the British. And it's about a British woman who has a relationship with a Native man in America who was a soldier in the time. Has anybody seen it? Is it called The English? It's called The English, right? Okay, I binged that like in a weekend and I didn't even try that hard. Like otherwise it would have been a day for me, but I had a parent. And so anyway, but what's interesting is it tells a story of natives, Native Americans in a really complicated, complex way. So anyway, all right, there you go. Plug for today.
It's in there.
Yeah, it looks like paparazzi. Is this it? It is.
No.
I got it.
May have to refresh.
Alright. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right. All right, I'll put that on my slideshow. There we go. Oh. All right, tell us about this.
We kind of like went with this one because we were thinking you can't really take and cover American history without taking Native Americans. And it seems like, especially if you just stay within the textbook, most textbooks don't really do justice to Native Americans, but portrayed as, savages, incompetent. I mean, you just fill in the blank with all the different areas. And it's kind of like, in looking at this photo, it's kind of like, it's an opportunity to say, this is where we've been, where are we going next? And you can take and just insert anyone into that. That's kind of like what we were taking from it.
Yeah, sometimes when I think when US history is studied, we study the victims rather than seeing people's agency and their beauty and their strength, and Native populations are certainly part of that. And so to begin with another narrative, says something really, I think, profound. Good, well done. All right, next group.
We talked about a lot of them. We ended up settling on Marian Anderson. This is her, I think it's 1939 concert at the Lincoln Memorial. And this was after her integrated concert at the Daughters of the American Revolution was canceled. And so President Roosevelt reached out to the Secretary of the Interior. Eleanor Roosevelt resigns the Daughters of the American Revolution, and she ends up performing for 75,000 people in front at the Lincoln Memorial, plus like however many more were listening on the radio. And we picked it because obviously that's tension from racism and whatnot at the time. But I think the part that always struck me with this is the resistance. Like, we're carrying on, we're still doing this, despite the fact that you don't want me here. Like, and I think that's maybe one of the most American qualities you could possibly have in the face of tension, is we're still here, we're still doing it.
So good. So good. All right. The great one. All right. Ruth. 6. Anyone?
We picked Ruby Bridges. We were going back and forth between this and Little Rock 9. And we decided to pick this one because, this is a little 6-year-old girl who has no idea no idea the impact that she is making, not only for her current generation, but for future generations. This image inspired countless pieces of artwork, all the way up to Vice President Harris and her election and the artwork that came out about that. But to us, this is that idea of, number one, every American student deserves a quality education. And also because it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, you deserve to be seen, to be heard, and to learn. And so we felt like this was an important image.
Your daughter's 6, right? The one who's
Yes.
here, she's 6,
Yeah.
just for age reference.
I know, and it makes it real weird. Yeah, I mean, like, that's a lot to put on a 6-year-old.
Yeah, she's got her little briefcase, it looks like. or-
She's so cute.
All sorts of. Good, all right, so, I think I used to do group 7, and we got that fight. Let's end on a- No.
I mean, this is why it ends with that.
You didn't.
Yeah, I didn't do it. That's how many goes and to be like, did you choose?
Well, we thought that was a lot of tension, you know, it fits with the theme of tension, but everybody else has positive uplifting images of progress, and I'm not sure that we had that. We thought that, you know, represented a lot of tension that's in America right now.
That have problems. But, you know,
God, this is true, it's like darkest moment, but this needs to be attention to America. We have 2 Americas, we've seen them and more now, so thanks. So the last sort of thought for today, and then we'll here's my final sort of ending thought for today. So one, I'm a meditator. I can say that now after 3 or 4 years. I don't sit like home. I sort of lay down and put an eye thing over my eyes, and I'm actually multitasking, but then I listen to this thing for 10 minutes to try to cool me out. And at the end of it, it always has like some sort of reading or idea. And this one came up and I just really loved it. Because anytime you get in any kind of community, they use their own sort of language, and people that meditate can be annoying. And so I'm always appreciative when they're not using stupid language and just speak like, you know, English. So anyway, I like this a lot, you know, mindfulness. It isn't a trick or a gimmick, it's being present in the moment. When I'm with you right now, that's all, no more, no less. So I really like that a lot in my own personal life, but as it relates to inquiry, I think a lot of times, and some of you have heard me say this, in education, there's just always the newest, greatest gimmick happening. That, you know, I call it squirrel reform, where you start on a road and then it's squirrel, administrator, goes to a conference and brings back a new idea, and then you have to like pivot. Squirrel. And it's hard to feel sort of vested in any one particular thing because there's just always the new coming around. So I like to think about inquiry as not a gimmick or a trick. It's questions asked from sources, questions that matter, and trying to find your way through by listening to others who think differently than you. Ultimately, you come to an answer that is somewhat satisfying. At best, that's all, no more, no less. And so that's what I think about what we did today, is that ultimately it's about just getting kids to wrestle with the problem and finding their own way out. We use images today, we can use a lot of different things. This is not being exciting at one time, but I'll just end with this, that if you're using questions, tasks, and sources in your class, you're doing inquiry right. And we're all on this journey, where we're trying to find what this looks like in the classroom. And it's not a gimmick, it was true 100 years ago, it'll be true in 100 years. So with that, fine, y'all, and I will see you in January. And if we're together in January, and there isn't an apocalyptic snow, we're gonna do some discussion. This is part of this discussion, do some different discussion techniques to get social. If we get snowed out, we're gonna do something else, because that won't work. We'll have to do something else on it. So I'll let you know. All right? Have a great holiday. Please enjoy yourself over the holiday. Good to see that. Binge watch. That's what I do. And I will see you in January.
Okay, if you will look at the agenda that I gave you. Sign sheets, a QR code on the back.
Do you want me to say it louder from the front?
On.
Hey guys, what's up?
Yeah, but we
Well, I don't believe they. You're right. Some of the other people said we should know.
make sure like everything lined out.
So. Gonna go to get that. That is the Achieve teacher. There's a name. Right. I'm tired. I'm just gonna say it.
Look at a team and then
I'm just
you wouldn't be able to.
gonna say it. I'm like tired.
Unresponsive and stuff like that here.
Let's try this. Fire. Where's the survey? That's not it.
He already got
Bye, you are amazing. You have cookies to take home. You got your cookies to take home. And you got a picture of Christmas tree that matches you.
That's perfect.
And you've got your video.
Did you plug it in?
What?
The tree. That one, no, I just turned it on. We're gonna go see the Christmas parade in Frankfurt tonight, so it's big stuff.
Have a good time.
Especially if we're really good here today. You were ready.
She was fantastic. Thank you.
No problem. You will for outfit.
For yourself.
I will. I'll call you. Call me sometime.
All right, I will.
I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay.
All right. Responses. You ought to be here. Gotta be the last one, right? No? Let's try 68. Just to see if it's you. There you are.
There it is. Okay. So hopefully it went.
So I think it went through.
Okay.
Okay. You're welcome, darling.
Some staff's gonna be, they are. Yeah, they're. She just didn't want to do that. With no structure, no, nothing like this. So, I mean, we're lucky we made it out of it.
Let's drop that.
My mom died. He was virtual. He didn't make all this. All this. Send you an email. I'm trying to make it into two or the other one or. I'm just saying. I yelled at mom today. Two of the kids trying to get on the bus. Two of the kids trying to get on the bus. I got from the car and stopped her. What's gonna do? I'm like, yeah. He was all doing that. Chris even helped me and you know. He said, I was standing on the ramp, I was. So, anyway, have a good year. They came back from Thanksgiving.
Should
It's
stop
not been pretty, I'm
recording.
sure you're all the same. And of course, we come back, of course, Becca has 12 days of Christmas, so every day is a Janet day, or a Bell day, or something.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
That's good, that's.
I tried to enlarge everything I could, but I'm not sure if some of those pictures picked up were fuzzy.